All right, so down on the bottom, see where it says record?
It says accept. It's loading it right now, redirecting Facebook Live.
Oh, okay. No,
Okay.
you're live on Facebook. All right, so minimize your browser window there.
Okay. Did I do it?
And then, yeah, it's live on Facebook.
Yay.
So are you back in your Zoom window?
Yep, I'm back in my Zoom window.
Right click on my face.
To click on you?
Make co-host.
What do I have to do?
If you right click on my window.
Okay, let's see. It says make co-host. Did it. Make co-host.
Yay.
Got it?
There we go. And then I will start the audio streams.
Man, get me all nervous before we start. I'm not the technical person.
You are now. All right, we're gonna go live. Here we go.
Ready? Welcome to Psyched by MG. This is Mary Grace Randazzo Ratliff, or MG for short. I've been a psychotherapist in private practice for 32 years now. Guess what, everyone? We all have issues. So it's time to lighten up and move forward. Let's stop letting our crap control us and take control of our crap. Hi, everyone. How is everyone doing tonight? We got Jamie Flanagan. We got Matt Fox, David Wright with us tonight.
What's up, people? How you doing?
Hi.
Hello, hello. I don't know.
This is a regular occurrence, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so. Every Friday.
I got
it
just to see David's background. So that's
that's all it's about.
Usual date night.
Just a little hint with David's background tonight and some of the things we're gonna get to. How was everyone this week? I don't know. I wish I could say this is week 5 of
just make up a number.
Quarantine or 6 or I think it started. Let's see. I think it started the 11th or 12th of March. So yeah, 4.5 weeks of quarantine now. Mm-hmm. How'd everybody do this week?
Lots of teacher meetings. I had lots and lots of teacher meetings.
I would think you would, Jamie, because they're getting everything planned out for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
But so you guys were ahead, right?
Yeah, well, with the technology, we were ahead of the curve. So we're doing good. We're one of the districts. We're actually going to give our kids letter grades as it stands right now, just so their transcripts look the same. And for our underclassmen who are competing for, you got to start thinking about if kids that are the higher achievers. There's a crap ton of scholarships and a whole bunch of money attached to being valedictorian, salutatorian. There is free rides and full rides. Yeah. It is high stakes stuff for your high achieving kids. And so as a freshman and a sophomore and as a junior, to give them some sort of, completed grade, it would mess up transcripts. And so we're trying to honor that as much as we can. And it's a balance. Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I got a kid that's going to be a senior this year. So we get stuff every day waiting to hear what's going to happen. We just got an email tonight, I think dealing with what you were just talking about that I haven't had a chance to read yet, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we had a Zoom meeting with parents today with this principal. I think the superintendent was on there too. I ducked in for a bit of it, but it's really just trying to get. They want to continue to try to teach and educate. The problem is they're saying that if it's going to hurt your grade, it's not going to affect you, but you can always improve your grade.
Yeah.
So I guess
that's kind of the message from the governor. And that's it was kind of written in the executive order that learning should continue. But if you were doing well and passing your classes when the shutdown came on the 13th, then this shouldn't negatively impact you. You should only be able to positively impact your grade.
We're dealing with that in my house because my son, the swindler, who has really good grades, says, now you got to read this correctly, Mom, because this says I have no more work. And I say,
this could be some kind of scam. What possibly scam?
Yeah, and I have to tell him, no, I want you doing all your homework. And he's like, well, why? Because I got my grades already.
Right.
for the enrichment.
Yeah, we get all into
Tough
that.
to
and-
motivate high schoolers when there's really nothing. I don't want to say there's nothing to work for. I mean, of course,
Right.
there are the high achievers that are in there. That's a small percentage, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It really is interesting. But a lot going on in the news this week. Like,
One of the biggest things, I didn't know that the United States was such a big spender with $349 billion gone to small and medium-sized
Right.
businesses within days.
Matt, it's funny you
Days.
mentioned that because
Yeah.
I had applied through Chase because for my business for that specific thing. And of course, I get the email from Chase today saying, oh, funds are already gone.
Yeah.
You didn't get in.
Yeah.
oh no.
So now
So-
we have to wait for the second round and hopefully,
Yeah.
again, who knows? The problem is there's so many businesses right now that are just floundering and without help, they're going to go under.
Right. And then it was stimulus week, first of many, apparently. A lot of people that did not get it, they go onto the IRS website, and they're being told, yeah, we can't figure out if you're going to get a stimulus or not. So there's so much going on this week, which is causing a lot of anxiety for a lot of people.
Well,
It
not to
really,
mention the
it really
unemployment-
is.
The unemployment system is almost impossible to get through right now also, because I know I have a lot of clients applying for unemployment and they just cannot get in.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for someone that has these anxiety issues and is going through all this and is not getting the short end of the stick, they have you to depend on. So
That's
what are
right.
some of the things?
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing what you're going to have to say this week.
Well, I started to make a list of what I'm seeing in this last week and what people are going through, and there's more fatigue.
Mhm.
I think shock is really worn off. I think there's more worry and fear. I think the news is, definitely feeding people, anybody, whether you have anxiety or not. I think it's feeding fear right now for people. And as we talked about last time, you really have to get to know, how do you handle fear? Do you know when you're afraid? And then what do you do with it? Do you always turn it into anger? And are you short-tempered? Well, if you're doing that, you're stressed out right now. And you got to talk, you got to sit down and kind of talk about what the stress is doing to you, because it's normal and it's affecting everybody.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm seeing, an increase of people saying I'm eating too much. I'm having a harder time exercising this week. I'm getting more, lethargic, unmotivated. And that's when you really got to mix it up. Like you do need to get in the car and go for a car ride. Go, out into the country like we used to do, at least when I was younger, go for these country rides. Get on Skype or Zoom or FaceTime with somebody and connect, play games, do something, mix it up. Don't do the same thing every day. Otherwise, you're going to be feeding the stress, and that's what you don't want to do.
Well, I think there's additional stress involved. It's compounding now because, again, first it was fear, which is understandable when this whole thing
Right.
started happening, and that fear is still there.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's starting to evolve. You're seeing a lot more angry, like demonstrations, and because people are frustrated. It's kind of going through that progression.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
denial, anger.
Yep.
And the other thing that's starting to affect people now is money is becoming an issue. Before it was a worry, now it's becoming reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jobs, money, making
How to
bills.
figure it out. And again, that I was talking to somebody who is the head of a church, and I said, think outside of the box. Like, if there is a problem, then as we slowly phase back in, instead of mass being twice a week or 2 different time slots, you've got to have 4 and 5 different time slots, and people have to share, and figure out how to cover those time slots. If you're going to have smaller groups returning to the churches, think outside of the box. The same thing with employment. And I think we all, I think a lot of people are talking about how we really have to support the restaurants right now. Do the takeout, and just help them in any way that we can. I thought of, I wanted to call my nail salon and say, listen, I want to prepay like 3 appointments.
Gift cards. Buy gift cards.
Or buy
Gift
gift
cards,
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Buy a bunch
advising.
of gift cards and
Yeah.
I'll use them going into the future for you. Or I wanted to do that with my hair salon. Different things that we can all do to help stimulate things and not be at risk. The thing that scares me a little bit when people get like this, if a person is somebody that doesn't manage and self-regulate well their stress, their anxiety, their fear, and their anger, they get reactionary and impulsive, and they want to just fight. And that's not the way to look at this issue. It's just not. And we saw some of that. And I'm going to talk about Lansing a little bit.
Right.
You
can do that.
You want this to end quickly. Don't gather. I mean, if you don't want it to be prolonged, don't do what you did.
Right.
Back up a little bit and don't lash out the way that I'm seeing some people really lashing out. I mean, everybody's having a hard time and everybody's scared.
It was unsettling looking at the protesters in Lansing. People aren't agreeing with what our governor in Michigan has, that she's mandated that people not travel to vacation homes because, all right, so, we're all down here in Metro Detroit where the cluster of the majority of the people are. And then you go up to your house, your cottage in Gaylord, because you're like, well, I'm going to clean the gutters and I'm going to, take a few days and I can work remotely up there. What's the harm? Well, you get up there and then you got to go buy food and you got to go. So you're going into the gas station there and you're going to the hardware store and you're going into the grocery store and you're bringing all the funk from down here up there or the funk from up there back down here. So, it is, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, hey, don't go back and forth between your vacation homes. Just because
think it through.
Yeah.
Some of it's a lot of common sense, really.
And,
it should be. But
it is common
sense. A lot of things that are common sense are not common sense to certain people.
Well,
it doesn't.
Right.
Dave, you think about what we do in an office when somebody doesn't self-regulate well, which means controls their impulsivity and wants to lash out and wants to go after someone and wants to not think it through. We set limits with them. We say, cut the crap, dude. Of course, that's how I speak. I mean, I just say, cut the shit right now because I'm going to walk you all the way through those choices and show you the chaos and show you the other fires you're going to have to put out because you're not slowing down enough to truly think it through. And
the difficulty is a lot of these individuals don't have that guidance or they've never self-regulated. They've never looked that they've never reacted any other way but anger. That's their it's their habit.
Fight or flight, it's called. Just fight or.
It was really, really unsettling to see the protesters outside the Capitol here in Michigan, and they were like, full metal jackets, and they had like clips and clips and clips and clips and clips of ammo, and it was just this
guns. I mean, I don't know why
this
they were allowed to be there.
I don't understand. Well, I mean, it's legal. I mean, it's open
not with the guns.
Open carry. No, open carry.
Open carry you can do.
Yeah, it's legal. If they had the right permits, they're allowed to carry those things. But it was really unsettling. And what was it? You got to wonder what their motivation is. It's like, is it just, just look at me. It's what's behind their thinking?
What are you doing?
They were hunting for scenes.
Yeah.
Well, I do think, and again, without getting too deep into the politics of it, that comes into play because everything, and we know everything is so tribal now. It's like you belong to this group and you're going to defend it to the very end, regardless of regardless whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
You're rooting for the home team. It doesn't matter what their record is.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who gets hurt on the other side, but we aren't at war. This is not war, people. We're all supposed to be the United States.
Well, it's interesting though, because that term's been used quite a bit over the last couple of months.
Well, yeah, a couple months. Yeah, it really has.
But when you say somebody, we are at war, and then again, it's just the whole. I don't know what theme to call it. Everything's so like militant. Maybe is that the right term? It just
Yeah, I think we're functioning in chaos right now.
Mhm.
It's very erratic. I think where limits needed to be set, if you just think about a family system, or if you think about working with a client and you see the escalation of anger and you see the impulsivity and you see a reactionary person versus a person who takes action, you know that there has to be limits and there has to be accountability
Mhm.
for bad behaviors. And if you don't have accountability to those bad behaviors, that person gets more and more entitled. And if the person who's doing that is narcissistic and self-centered, and we're going to lead in to talking about the Tiger King
Mhm.
tonight. But if that person isn't regulated and you don't set limits for them, they get more and more delusional to the point of breaking with reality.
And empowered. They feel like they could just do anything at that point.
Right. And people who are around them, they scare them. They function through making people afraid, and they know people's insecurities. I mean, now we're talking about the narcissist again, or the sociopath, or the psychopath, the borderline. They are bright, especially if they're higher level sociopath, psychopath. That kind of brightness, they can read people really well, and they know those weak points, and they press on them because people are there to serve that person. And you cannot be an individual when you're in the presence of some kind of narcissist, because they don't bond. They use people to fulfill them and to take care of them. People to that narcissist are seen as objects. This is such a great lead in to talking about the Tiger King. Oh my God.
Joe Exotic for the people of America.
Now, Jamie, you watched some of it, you said, right?
I finally got through a handful of the episodes. Yes, it's people are kind of critical. They're like, oh, why are people like loving Joe Exotic but they hate Michael Vick? It's just people are racist. And it's like, I don't think anybody really likes Joe Exotic. I just think it's fascinating to watch the cartoon of the reality that that's unfolded. And every time you turn around, you're like, well, what else could there be? Oh, okay. Topless bars. Yeah. Just every time you turn around, there's like,
oh my God,
what else could there be? And it's like, well, I've stopped asking because
seriously. I mean, it's a level of overt and covert, allegedly, narcissism that, when you get into high levels of narcissism, they are delusional. They don't have reality. And when they fight, they believe that reality that they're fighting for. And, Joe Exotic, I saw the update on Sunday.
Yeah.
And did you know he didn't sing those songs? That wasn't his voice.
Oh, no?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, now I'm shattered. No.
Oh.
But that fits, doesn't it, Dave? That fits.
It was not him, huh?
No, it wasn't him. They said that it was dubbed in, somebody else was singing, and that wasn't his voice. And I thought, oh my God, at first I'm shocked, but you know what? No, that fits. You do anything to be idealized.
There was a clip in one of the episodes, and he's driving, and he's got a tiger sitting in there, and he's singing along to his own song. At that point, I says, like, that is not him in any way, shape, or form.
Matt, I thought the same thing. I had the same realization. I'm like, boy, they must have really like auto-tuned him or something for this for these videos.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Lion King, aka Akon. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm like, actually he sounds pretty good. I mean, this isn't awful, because expect it to be a train wreck. You know, you're like, wow, he's got a little something going on. That's kind of funny. Lisa Hammond said hi in the chat room. She said hello to
Oh,
the
hi,
Fab
Lisa.
Four.
Thanks for joining us.
She said hi to the Fab Four, she says.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I mean, when I found out he wasn't singing the songs, which by the way, I thought that in the car as well. I thought there's no way, because he would have just been in a singing career.
Mhm.
That was his voice, you know, with how grandiose he can be, that's what he would have done.
Right.
But and did you notice who was missing on the update, Dave?
Carol.
Carol.
Yeah.
Carol wasn't there. And I read an article that she didn't show because she felt that the show was for entertainment purposes and didn't portray her in the right light.
You cool cats and kittens.
That's her.
You know who else was not on the update was the gentleman, the cult leader.
Doc.
Yeah.
Yes,
Doc
yeah.
and
Doc. Oh my gosh.
The blonde dude with the yeah.
Yeah, the
That
blonde
handle.
dude.
Yeah.
He's so crazy. He's right up there too. I mean, but yeah, they weren't on. I think they mentioned in an article something about their lawsuits too. They've got, you know, lawsuits
but you go back
against
to, again, you're talking about narcissism. They don't like to be criticized, and they
Oh,
don't want people
good
to,
point, Dave.
to point things out and you know, and you saw most of the narcissists weren't participating in this follow-up.
Mm-mm.
Most of the worst ones, let's say.
No. And his first husband, who left him to marry the woman.
Oh, the guy with the great teeth.
Yeah, he got his teeth fixed. And, you know, I felt a little bit bad for him because they portrayed him as like an alcoholic, drug abusing hillbilly.
Or meth head.
Yeah. But he'd been sober for like 4 or 5 years when
They
they
only
did
had
that
that-
documentary.
Yeah, they only felt that way because he was missing so many teeth, because that's what meth does. It just
Right. He just has the appearance of being somebody who is
And
messed up on
that
something.
right.
yeah, and that was a bad judgment because it wasn't true.
Right.
It just wasn't true. Wow. Yeah. Well, there's a couple things we can go with this thing. What stood out big time for me, I was listening to Saf. I'm so sorry. He is the one that got his arm bit off by the tiger.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh, here's one for you. Hold on. I got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you hear it on the news, I'm going to tell you myself. About an hour ago, we had an incident where one of the employees stuck their arm through the cage and a tiger tore her arm off. I can give you your money back, or I can give you a rain check.
oh
Do
my
you want the
God.
money back, or do you want a rain check?
And that's what he's focused on.
Right. Exactly. Well, again, the whole announcement was a show to bring attention to himself. After this poor guy's laying there armless, or well,
Yeah.
almost armless.
Yeah. What was interesting to me about him, you know, we can get into what's called the dissociative disorder a little bit, that just to give you a little background, people who've been through trauma, you know, serious trauma, sexual abuse, or, you know, violence, you know, really disruptive
Soldiers
upbringing,
during wars.
war.
Mhm.
You have to develop it to a certain degree in order to survive the trauma day after day after day.
Mhm.
And so you disconnect from the physical body so that you don't feel all the pain. Because if you were to feel the pain of whatever the trauma is that's going on, you couldn't make it each day through what you have to do, surviving whatever kind of war you're living in. And, you know, it made me question and almost want to know her history a little, or his history. So sorry, his history a bit, because her reaction when her arm got torn off
Mhm.
And she went back to work right away after she left the hospital.
Well, even when she told the story, she said, you know, I could still move my fingers a little bit, but they said it would be years of reconstructive surgery. And she said, I just told them to cut it off. Like even just telling
Mm,
that, it was
yeah,
just
about that part.
no emotion. It was just, oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. I mean, it was, you know, that's when I kind of, when I was watching it, I took a deep breath and went, oh my God, you know, what has this man been through?
Mhm.
Because she's been through, I'm sure, a lot of trials and tribulations that she is strong enough to survive. And, but what happens to people when they, when their lives are no longer in those war zones, so to speak, they don't know how to reconnect to their bodies again.
Mhm.
And our bodies and our emotions and this physical body are, it's filled with alert systems that let us know that something's wrong. And I touched on this a little bit in the last show. I said, you know, emotions are important and being afraid is important. It's an alert system that gets us to pay attention and to know that we have to deal with something. And it also relieves stress from the body. Emotions have to let that pressure cooker open,
Right.
so that you don't blow up. And if you're not connected to your body and you're not feeling pain, you aren't going to be able to take good care of yourself.
No.
And probably make better decisions in regards to the company you keep and the people you hang out with, because you, in adulthood, you have the power to be able to create better relationships, stronger relationships.
Well, you should have ideally, and that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to work. But
Yes.
somebody who has disconnected,
Yes.
they don't, yeah, that they don't see them true. They don't. I'm trying to think of a good way to say it. Like they don't see their true selves anymore.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And when I work with somebody who's been through that, I talk about their strengths, because truly the ability to disconnect helps you to survive. It's a strong self that can do the disconnect and survive the trauma and get through it. The problem is when you're not in a war zone anymore, you don't know how, some people don't know how to not keep creating war zones. Like she, it appears to me, creates by being at the zoo. And then she goes through a horrific trauma and doesn't have the reaction. And even in the update, the interviewer, you know, you could tell the interviewer was surprised, like, you know, my gosh, you don't have a reaction. And she's like, no, it's no big deal. And for people who are watching, you don't want to be swayed by that, because your reaction of, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That's the normal reaction. It is a big deal. When a tiger rips your arm off,
that's a hell of a traumatic event.
It's a hell of a traumatic event.
That should
Yes.
invoke some.
Yes.
I mean, again, and we talk about people who disassociate, that it is a coping mechanism. However, that if you, like you said, if you continue to disassociate even after, you're just never, you're never, it's always going to be there. It's almost like you're ignoring it. Not like consciously, I don't think.
Not consciously, on purpose. You trained yourself to ignore it for so many years.
Well, and we know what happens to the most extreme dissociative disorders, that what we call multiple personalities.
Yeah, that's real extreme
dissociative
disorder. Yeah, that's, you know, to the nth degree. And I didn't, you know, I don't know the Saf, but I think if anything, she definitely has some of it with her reaction to it. And then I just noticed what happens to a person who struggles with that is, you know, people just want to go, oh my God. And they just want to give her a lot of love and compassion and sensitivity. But because she blocks it and no, it doesn't bother me. Nope, there's nothing. Oh, I don't know why anybody makes it a big deal. She's not allowing herself to receive some really good compassion and love and support. She's still got armor, it appears, that keeps going up, where people can't follow all the way through by saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry you went through that.
Well, and it's another way that you're kind of limiting or eliminating help you could get, because again, it's somebody from the outside would think, oh, she's fine. Oh, I'm so glad she's fine. But they don't see what's really happening inside, because she puts that front on, because she's separated herself from it. They
Yes.
think, oh, she doesn't need help. She's doing great.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's so hard, because I just, that person, you want to just, I would like, just hug the crap out of them. And because they're such brave people, again, they've been through so much trauma and tragedy. I had someone years ago who was in the kitchen cooking, and a big, huge, the meat cleaver things,
Yeah.
somehow flipped out of the hand and hit the foot.
Oh,
Went right into the foot. Yeah, I know. All of us are like, oh, and especially me, I can't take that at all. And the wife came in and was like, oh my God, what did you do? And he's like, oh, this is no big deal. And pulls it out. Of course, it's bleeding profusely. And he's like, oh, this is no big deal. And she's like, we have to go to the hospital. Okay. I would have passed out. There's no way I could have handled that. Thank God the wife was able to do it. But I remember talking to him and him saying, I think I realized that it is kind of a big deal when I saw my wife's face and this thing sticking out of my foot. I thought, wow, what if this was my kid? And that person was able to make that connection then. Because if it's your kid, you're going to be like, oh my God, okay, stay calm. We got to get you to the hospital. But for people with dissociative disorders, they don't feel it. They don't feel pain, emotional or physical,
right.
Or not much. They can really numb it out.
Well, it's just so diminished in their minds that it is not a big deal sometimes to them. It's just, it's just there. It's just something that happened.
Yeah. Well, and you want, again, when I think about her, or him, I'm so sorry. But I just, geez, somebody who struggles with that, again, you really should see a great trauma specialist, a good trauma therapist, because they can slowly walk you through it and teach you how to grieve, and teach you how to not be afraid of your emotions. When you're growing up, or you've been through trauma and any form of entrapment and have been harmed and hurt and abused, you can't connect then. You're not going to get the support and the compassion and the encouragement and the protection. You have to wait until you're out of that relationship. And for kids who go through it, they a lot of times have to wait until they're adults, unless there's a major intervention in the family. For adults, with adults, they have to leave the relationship. And the rationalizations that a person with dissociative disorder has, they rationalize everything into being nothing. Nothing.
Well, in to put it into context, because they've been through something so traumatic, it's almost like, well, if I went through that, nothing else is really going to affect me, even though things can. It doesn't have to be to the same degree. Things still are going to affect you, or should affect you.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's a road to recovery that is so worth traveling on. I mean, it really is. And, again, when you have a tiger rip off your arm,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's what I think is made this show so successful. We're living at a time where really extreme behaviors that are delusional and a bit crazy
Mhm.
are really out there right now. And, even television right now, like, you can't watch a Housewives
Well,
episode.
I was just gonna bring that show up. There are so many things out there that are just they're extreme. They show extreme interactions of human
Yes.
behavior with anger and lashing out and physical violence.
Yes.
And I know a lot of that is embellished. I know it's television,
Yes.
but for people to and I don't know if somebody gets some kind of cathartic relief by watching that. I don't know, but it's also it's also extreme.
Yeah, it is. And, the thing that makes me nervous is it really glorifies bad behavior. And we're supposed to be setting limits with bad behavior. Again, we are supposed to be civilized. This has nothing to do with politics.
No, I
This
agree.
this is just
Human
about
beings.
ethical
Mhm.
behaviors.
Yeah.
And so I get the whole, train wreck or car crash reaction to things, but we are so inundated with it at this point that, I worry about younger people a little bit because bad behaviors are not getting the limits that they need to get. And
Right.
narcissism on shows is out of control and glorified and fed. But we in the field go, to be healthy though, and to really have good relationships and good connections that last, you don't want to do what you're seeing on those reality shows. You just don't. And, how the other thing is, I grew up during the feminist movement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give you my age, but I was young in the
I know your
60s
age.
and
I can tell.
70s. I was in high school in the 70s. Like, this is, to see some of, where, the role models are going with women right now and young women, I'm like, holy freaking crap, Batman. Like, this is crazy.
Well, let's throw names out there. Give like who are you
Okay.
alluding to? I guess
I'm alluding to the Kardashians.
Okay, all right.
and to some of the housewives.
Okay, right. I'll give you those. That's
my daughter was 7 years old, I think, when the Kardashians came out, and she was not allowed to watch. She was just not allowed to watch.
which is perfectly
Yeah.
expected as a parent that a 7-year-old shouldn't be watching that.
And I was the minority who said no.
That's the sad part.
And I got really scared by, that, and I, worked really hard as a parent with my kids and, what you're going to be exposed to at the right time in your life. I don't shelter them. They've been exposed to stuff, but you got to figure out the timing and the age in which kids get exposed. There's, we have to give our kids the age of innocence because society is not doing it.
Well, well, you're right, and it does fall to the parents. But here's the difficulty, and I know you see this because I've seen this over the years. I'll have clients come in, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, behavioral, acting out, doing poor academically, and one of the first questions I ask the parent is, what kind of structure is there at home?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, they stay up until, I don't know, 2 or 3 playing video games, and then and I'm like, well, what kid is gonna do well on 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night? No one. I mean, adults can't function like that. And to add to that, because I am familiar, I have a teenager, so I know video games, and I ask them, so what's your what does your 8-year-old play? Oh, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, plays online with people,
Oh my
and
God.
I'm just it just seems for me it doesn't seem that difficult to say, probably an 8-year-old. This is not a game for an 8-year-old. Let's
Yeah.
say.
Well, or more directly, knock it off. Step into the
Right.
parenting hat, people. You're not the friend. Like, you have to understand that world is exposed to this child.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't setting up the rules and the parameters, that kid's getting exposed to things that they're not age ready for.
Well, and the other sad thing is sometimes it's ignorance. It's sometimes
Yeah.
the parents, whether
Yeah.
it's father or mother, that they have no idea what they're doing online.
I know.
They're just in their room.
Yeah.
They don't monitor. They don't know. So they have no idea if they're playing a game that's rated mature, because they don't even know what the games are.
And they don't know we're going to do a whole show on this.
We should. And believe me, for those folks out there, I'm not anti-gaming. I play it myself here and there occasionally.
Yeah. No, but it's about age appropriateness.
Yes. Right.
It's about moderation.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing the limits to set. It's knowing what to use to do the parental guidance controls that you need. Again, with bad behavior is bad behavior. It should never be understood. It shouldn't. If you understand bad behavior, you cannot protect yourself from it. You will rationalize it, and it will stay present.
Mm-hmm.
You must set a limit with bad behavior.
And to go
period.
Further, it'll get worse.
Yes, it
Because
festers and it grows.
Without setting boundaries and structure.
Yes.
The worse it will get, because at some point the kid will become a teenager. They will get older, and if they haven't had, it's hard to put the horse back in the barn once it's out. And
right.
If you don't start early, you can't reel in a 17-year-old who's never been disciplined in their life.
It's tough.
It's not going to happen.
It's tough. It's hard. And so, the whole thing, whether it's, somebody who, I go back to Saf real quick, because she really hit me hard.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching about bad behavior. Like, if you aren't being treated well at work, or at least decently and respectfully, and somebody is abusing you, you've got to learn about, that's not okay, period. Right. And Dave, we get so many people in our office that can be in these relationships, whether it's intimate, parental, work, that these people get, ridiculed and screamed at and yelled at and hit and condemned, and their self-esteem goes to the point where it's non-existent.
Right. And
they over tolerate it, and they get so scared and insecure that they become paralyzed and can't move.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is happening to you, you have to go to somebody who can help you navigate through that, because there is a way out. There really is. You can find your voice and your strength. You just need to work with somebody who's got that strength for you.
And let me reinforce that, because a lot of those people feel like, for whatever reason, whether it's subconsciously or because they've always been treated poorly, that they don't deserve to be treated well.
I know.
You see this abusive
Or
relationship.
that it's not real.
Yeah.
Or that being treated well isn't real.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with tough times. My childhood wasn't easy. So I can say to you, you can make it through trauma. You really, really can,
Mm-hmm.
and make it out. And it can be, trauma can be not enough food on the table, poverty, a parent who's not home because, they have to work 3 jobs, and that kid has to raise themselves. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard. And when I meet people who go through that, I'm always amazed by the survival skills. Like I say with Saf, she's got some really strong, super sane abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's just learning how now to navigate them and make them a choice. The way she copes is not a choice for her right now.
Right.
And she has to make it a choice that she can let people in, she can feel pain, and she can be taken care of better, or take care of herself better.
Or himself.
Or him. I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
it doesn't matter, but because I mean, the
Just to
concept
be
is the same. It's the same
respectful,
for
though.
anyone. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
And I just want to even like go further with what you said, because again, trauma doesn't have to be something overt as physical or sexual abuse or
Right. Right.
it can be, your parents were divorced. That's a
Yeah.
trauma for kids.
Yeah.
It can be,
Yeah.
my mother never said she loved me. That can be
Yeah.
a trauma for children.
Yep. Yep. Well, the one guy with the amputated legs, I thought of him with
Mhm.
dissociative disorder too. And, people who go through and live through like war zones, they have a really hard time being around other people, and they want a lot of control over their environment, what goes into their body, what they hear, what they process, because they're trying to, part of it is they're trying to manage getting triggered, and then their temper going off, and they're pushing people away. People who've been through trauma have a really hard time regulating themselves and being able to differentiate when somebody is just frustrated to a mild degree versus somebody who's going to attack them.
Right.
And when you're working with trauma patients, you have to teach them how to differentiate a good person with good intent who might make a mistake or just be frustrated in a mild to moderate way versus somebody who is a threat to you.
Mhm.
And what's interesting in the Tiger King, all of them stayed so long. And I guess they're finding familiarity, in my opinion, in a war zone
Mhm.
over
Yes.
and over and over again. Joe picks insecure people who've been, obviously traumatized
Yes.
to
Yes.
control.
Mhm.
So you don't realize, you think that you're just so strong that you're controlling, the situation, but in reality, you've given up control because you're living in a situation that isn't right for you.
And a lot of that could be you've never learned how to do that.
No.
Or and again, back to say again,
Yeah.
you don't realize that you can, that it's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Yeah.
They're coping the best way they know how, which is
Yeah.
just disconnecting.
Yeah. Yeah. All of them. I mean, all of them. I think the guy, his first husband, who got himself some treatment, ended up meeting, she seems like they seem happy, and content. And I think he's the one that made the big break
Right.
and did the change and, got into some therapy and self-help. And there's a shift that happens. A recovering alcoholic will, can really talk well to that shift that happens in your life. But with Tiger King, I think the draw is, again, this extremism of this, bad behavior with, and then when you get limits, whether it's a lawsuit or arrested or whatever, for the narcissist, it's like, oh, how could you do this to me? I am so grand and entitled that you should never do this to me. I'm the victim.
Well, yeah, Joe Exotic is the perfect
Joe
example.
Exotic.
Yeah, he doesn't believe he should be in prison. I guarantee he doesn't believe he should be there.
And Doc is just the nicest guy to women, right?
Well,
according to his reality,
sure.
We want to, shake the crap out of him.
But again, as long as these women are reinforcing that idea, they are victims themselves, but they reinforce that behavior.
Yeah. Well, and he picks such young women, just like Joe Exotic did. He picked such young people who were so desperate to find their way, and then they just control the crap out of them and manipulate the crap out of them. I mean,
and that's the unfortunate thing, because the narcissist will find those people, and there's a lot of them. There are a lot of people who are insecure and I don't say needy in a bad way, but they need something that they're looking for something. That's why people get involved in cults.
Yeah. Oh, I told you, Doc's a cult leader.
That that gives them reinforcement and makes them feel a part of something
Yeah.
and makes them feel important. And
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
hard to say no to that.
Yeah. When my daughter was young, I mean, fighting the whole Kardashian exposure was tough. And, she called me up. She was little and she said, Mom, you have to come pick me up because they're watching the Kardashians. I said, okay, honey, I'll come get you. I walked to the door, and this mom was another therapist.
Really?
And she said, how did you do this? I mean, I can't believe your daughter's going to leave. And I said, well, I think I'm a little shocked that you're showing this to such little girls. And it was interesting. Years later, she came up to me. I mean, the kids were now 13, 14 years old. And she said, I used to think you were a really strict mom. She said, but now I'm having a problem with my other child. And I said, well, let me guess. Let me just guess what's going on. I said, inappropriate behavior at school. She's like, how did you know that? And I said, I bet you don't know what YouTube videos your kid watches. And she's like, we didn't. And I said, if they're exposed to high sexual content and they're young, the way they master it is to act it out. And that is really scary. And that will get them in trouble when they're that young. You have to set limits and you have to know what's going on. And YouTube it was in the last 4 years or 3 years that they put controls, any kind of control in YouTube for parents over their videos. So, but anyway, I'm
well, let's again, we want to reach out to the people who may have experienced trauma in the past, any kind of, and whether this person, whether you're out there thinking, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. That's okay. You can still talk about it. And probably it's probably affecting you more than you realize.
Right. And you're not crazy. Like a good trauma specialist person is, we know that you almost have a super sanity because you were able to survive situations that are so tough, especially if you were a kid surviving those situations. So you aren't going to be judged. You're just going to have a coach to navigate you to a point where you can make choices on how you react to things. And you can slowly let better quality relationships come in your life so that you can feel fulfilled and connected to and cared for like you deserve. And that's what's so important in finding somebody, a good trauma specialist. And please, I think there's a place for life coaches, but I'm talking therapists, trauma specialists, their training and their education and make sure they got a good 5 years experience.
Well, and I was going to say, I don't want to throw us under the bus. Don't go to just any therapist.
No.
Work on something because you need to have somebody with experience who's dealt with this and who can get you through it I mean, you'll agree with me, Mary Grace. We've worked with people that probably shouldn't be therapists.
Oh, yeah.
Just because somebody has a piece of paper doesn't mean they know what they're doing. So
no, really, it's okay to ask questions.
Absolutely.
I say to my new clients all the time, see if you feel comfortable with me. If you don't, it's okay. Let's strategize who to get you to.
That's the exact same conversation I have. I'm like, listen, if you just leave today and if nothing else, you just might think, oh, this guy's an asshole. It doesn't matter. If you're not comfortable with me and you don't feel like I can help you, then it's not going to work for you.
Yeah. Just make sure they have the experience, good 5 years, master's level.
Well, it should be master's level at minimum anyway.
Very minimum.
Typically.
And licensed because you then have to go through years after you graduate to get licensed. So, but yeah, so the Tiger King, oh my God, that wore me out. That wore me out. And we did.
Go ahead, Mary Grace.
I was going to say, we could do a whole show on the freaking Kardashians.
Oh boy, that would be torture to me.
Oh my God.
I would struggle because I could tell you I probably haven't watched a minute of any of their shows.
Hey, I watched the Tiger King, David Wright. But yeah, I mean, it's there's a few shows that, and Dave and I were talking about this, that I think a great way to teach some of what we want everyone to learn and understand is, talk about some of these reality shows, because
No, you're right. And again, I know the Tiger King's been huge, and but it's a great example of just
such a good one.
function. It just that this is not how people should react or behave.
No. And when you feed narcissism, especially sociopaths, and you don't set limits, and they get more grandiosity and more grandiose, and they feel more entitled, they do break with reality. This is a delusional person.
Yeah.
And they do have a delusional disorder. And you can get to the point where their arrogance is so out of control that they break with reality, because they, again, don't bond with people. They don't bond with people. And so you have to be careful with the lack of limits and the no's with people who struggle with severe narcissism and delusions of grandeur, it's called.
Hey, Mary Grace.
Yeah.
In the I got a watch party going on Facebook, separate from what you guys got on, and there's a gentleman that's out there, Charles V, and he actually commented. He said, right now teachers, and this is for Jamie as well, teachers are doubling as therapists for children, especially middle school students. They're not really trained for it or qualified. But they have to do it. So, that's a question for all three of you. Jamie, what are you seeing? And then for the parents of these kids, what would you guys recommend?
It's amplified right now in this pandemic. It really is amplified. Inevitably it's like, oh, hey, what exercise, getting back to school in September. You just want to get a sample of the kids writing. It's like, share a summer memory. And just the things that come across your desk, like these kids are just dying to open up and share, and the overshare that you get, you're like, oh my gosh, it's challenging. So it's not just right now, but I think right now it is even more so amplified because their parents are working, or their parents don't care, or
let them stay up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Have challenges going themselves. They don't know where to turn for answers, and so they are turning to us, and turn into me, and I'm not trained for that. I try to do the best I can and be empathetic.
Well, the good thing with teachers, though, is they can be a positive influence and role model. I mean, you don't have to be a therapist to help and direct, let's say. I mean, it's not like you're sitting down with them for an hour and going through deep issues, but it's going to be natural for kids to reach out. The teacher is the closest thing they have. I mean, I know schools have guidance counselors, but typically that's only when you're in trouble or you need to change a class. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but that's typically the only time guidance counselors get any action.
Right.
There's key things as a teacher you should know that will automatically help the kids. One, give them a place to put these emotions. So I highly recommend for teachers, get these kids journaling, make it a part of their homework, that they have to write about something that is hard, write about something that makes you angry, write about something that makes you scared. Because the goal is get these emotions out of these kids and let them know there's a place to put it that is safe, that they won't be judged, and that they are being connected to. So figure out constructive ways to let their emotions out. Now, you don't have to do anything with them. It's just get them out of their kids' bodies. Then to validate and normalize for them the stressors and the insecurities or the woes that they're feeling, and to address that. So when they do these writings, the key that I know I look for as a therapist is I just want to see that they've done it. And then when I look at it, and you can just scan it, you can see, are they letting it out? And then the key is to just write the supportive statements. I'm so proud of you for doing this assignment. Wow, you're really handling this stress in a constructive way. I'm proud of you for doing this. We're all in the same boat. And that's the secondary statement. We're all going through this. Know that adults go through this. We get scared and angry and frustrated and sad and depressed. So do a journal, validate the feelings, give them, if you get a kid that you become concerned about, and you're going to see it in the journals, that's when you got to pull the parents in and say, this kid may need some counseling. We can do counseling for these kids, and you don't have to be the therapist. I was going to say Rolodex. Have a couple of therapists that you work with that you can go ahead and shoot the number to the parents and say, this could be a temporary thing. I think with all the stress of this pandemic, that they just need to talk to somebody for a few weeks. Sometimes it can be, 6 sessions, and we just help them to get it out and validate them and then to move forward. The other thing for teachers, I thought about this like I did with hospitals, is, therapists can be more involved in this for teachers. You can call therapists and say, are you willing to, if I'm going to do a Zoom, class with these kids, are you willing to come on for 20 minutes and just to talk about some of the stress and to handle it?
Yeah.
And then just do that. So the key is help them to get the feelings out, validate them, and help them to know that they're not alone. You do that, you're 85% there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good, great comment. Whoever wrote that comment.
Yeah.
I know we're over time, so let's, you can find us on. Huh? What was that?
Oh, that's okay. You're fine.
It was the Tiger Man.
Yeah, it was Tiger King.
Oh, Jesus. It's
Joe
Dave.
Exotic for the people of America.
Oh boy.
Oh my God. I'm done with Tiger King. I can't take anymore.
Oh, you're going to be hearing this for a long time because I have this on my sound vault here.
I mean, the shows, like my analytical brain, I start taking notes, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. And did I miss anything, Dave?
Are you on Instagram?
Instagram. I don't know if I'm on Instagram. I got to get my daughter to work on that for me. I don't know if I'm on Instagram. Are you, Dave?
Yes.
Motor City
Yes,
Hypnotist?
Motor City Hypnotist, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat.
Yeah. And we want to give a plug.
I'm hip with the Snapchat because of the kid.
Oh, yeah. And, kudos to Podcast Detroit Network.
Absolutely.
That's who carries us here.
I'm waiting for your TikToks. That's what I'm waiting for.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. We're going to see you next Friday.
Hey, that's a catchy tune.
All right, guys.
Yay.
All right, Mary Grace, on those 3 dots, hit that stop streaming.